12-year-old Maya Rodriguez had always been mature for her age, but nothing could have prepared her for the morning that would change everything. She was getting ready for school when she heard a soft crying coming from outside their small apartment building. Most kids would have ignored it, but Maya had always been the type to help others. When she opened the front door, she found something that made her heart race. There, in a small basket covered with a thin blanket, was a tiny baby. The infant couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, with wisps of dark hair and the tiniest fingers Maya had ever seen. A note was pinned to the blanket, but Maya was too shocked to read it immediately. Living with her grandmother Rosa while her parents worked double shifts at the factory, Maya had learned responsibility early. But this was different. This was a real baby crying and needing help. Her grandmother was still asleep, and Maya knew she had to act quickly. Without hesitation, she carefully picked up the basket and brought it inside. The baby's cries grew louder, and Maya remembered watching her aunt care for her cousin. She warmed some milk and used a clean cloth to feed the hungry infant, surprised at how naturally the caregiving came to her. When Rosa finally woke up and saw Maya sitting on the couch with the baby, her eyes went wide with confusion and concern. Maya quickly explained what had happened, showing her grandmother the note. It was written in shaky handwriting, explaining that the mother was very young and couldn't care for the baby, but hoped someone kind would find him and help. Rosa immediately called the hospital, knowing they needed professional help. But as they waited for the social worker to arrive, something remarkable happened. Maya had managed to calm the baby completely, and he seemed to respond to her gentle voice and careful touch. Even Rosa was amazed at how naturally her granddaughter handled the situation. The hospital staff arrived within an hour, and Maya carefully explained everything that had happened. She had kept the baby comfortable, fed, and safe. The social worker, Mrs. Thompson, was impressed by Maya's quick thinking and responsible actions. She told Maya that her fast response and proper care had potentially saved the baby's life, as he had been outside for several hours in the cool morning air. News of Maya's heroic actions spread quickly through their neighborhood and school. Local reporters wanted to interview the young girl who had saved an abandoned baby, but Maya felt overwhelmed by all the attention. She had simply done what felt right in the moment, and she couldn't understand why everyone was making such a big deal about it. At school, her teachers and classmates looked at her differently. Some called her a hero, while others whispered about the strange situation. Maya found it hard to concentrate on her studies, constantly wondering about the baby she had found. She had named him Gabriel in her mind, though she knew he would eventually get a proper name from his new family. Mrs. Thompson, the social worker, visited Maya at home a few days later with unexpected news. The baby was healthy and doing well at the hospital, but they were having trouble finding the right placement for him. Emergency foster families were full, and the adoption process would take time. More importantly, she had something surprising to tell Maya about the baby's background. Through their investigation, they had discovered that Gabriel's birth mother was only 15 years old, a runaway who had been living on the streets. She had given birth alone and, frightened and unable to care for the baby, had hoped someone would find him near the apartment building where she had noticed kind people coming and going. She had specifically chosen Maya's building because she had seen Rosa helping neighbors and Maya walking elderly residents' dogs after school. The social worker explained that the birth mother, whose name was Elena, had been watching from a distance to make sure someone found Gabriel safely. When she saw Maya discover the baby and care for him so gently, she knew she had made the right choice. Elena had turned herself into social services later that day, asking only to know that her baby was safe. Maya was deeply moved by this story. She realized that her simple act of kindness had been part of a much larger chain of courage and sacrifice. Elena had made an incredibly difficult decision, and Maya had been chosen as the person to help carry out that brave choice. The most surprising news came next. Mrs. Thompson explained that Elena had specifically requested to meet Maya, the girl who had saved her baby. She wanted to thank her personally and had something important to ask her. Maya's grandmother Rosa held her hand tightly as they agreed to the meeting, both nervous and honored by the request. Maya spent the next few days thinking about what she would say to Elena. She wasn't angry or judgmental. Instead, she felt deep compassion for someone so young who had faced such an impossible situation. She began to understand that real courage sometimes meant making the hardest choices, even when you're scared and alone. The meeting took place at the hospital in a quiet family room with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. Maya held her grandmother's hand as Elena walked in, looking much younger than Maya had expected. Elena was thin and pale with dark circles under her eyes, but there was a strength in her expression that reminded Maya of her own grandmother during difficult times. Elena's first words surprised everyone in the room. Instead of just saying thank you, she asked Maya how she had known exactly what to do with Gabriel. Maya explained that she had watched her aunt with babies and had helped her grandmother care for sick neighbors, but mostly she had just followed her instincts to help someone who needed it. What happened next was completely unexpected. Elena began to cry, not from sadness but from relief and gratitude. She told Maya that she had been watching from across the street that morning, terrified that no one would find Gabriel, or that someone unkind might discover him first. When she saw Maya's gentle care and quick action, she knew that everything would be okay. Elena shared her story with Maya and Rosa. She had been in foster care herself, and had aged out of the system at 18 with nowhere to go. She had been living in shelters and on the streets when she discovered she was pregnant. Too scared and ashamed to seek help during her pregnancy, she had hidden her condition and given birth alone in an abandoned building. The most shocking part of Elena's story was her confession about why she had chosen Maya's apartment building. She revealed that she had been sleeping in the alley behind their building for weeks, watching the daily routines of the residents. She had seen Maya helping elderly neighbors, walking dogs for people who were sick, and sharing her lunch with a stray cat. Elena had chosen their building specifically because she had observed Maya's kindness. Elena then made a request that stunned everyone. She asked if Maya would be willing to visit Gabriel regularly while the adoption process was being finalized. The nurses had told Elena that Gabriel seemed to respond particularly well to Maya's voice and touch, remaining calm and content when she was around. Elena believed that Maya had formed a special connection with her son during those crucial first hours. Mrs. Thompson explained that this was an unusual request, but given the circumstances and Maya's maturity, it might be beneficial for Gabriel's development. Studies showed that consistent, caring interaction was crucial for infants, especially those who had experienced early trauma or abandonment. Maya looked at her grandmother, who nodded encouragingly. She agreed to Elena's request, understanding that this was about much more than just visiting a baby. This was about completing a circle of care and kindness that had begun with Elena's brave decision and Maya's compassionate response. Over the following weeks, Maya established a routine of visiting Gabriel at the hospital after school. She would read to him, help with his feeding, and simply talk to him about her day. The nurses were amazed at how the baby responded to Maya's presence, often calming down immediately when he heard her voice. During these visits, Maya began to form an unexpected friendship with Elena. Elena had been receiving counseling and support services, and slowly began to heal from her difficult experiences. She was incredibly grateful for Maya's continued care of Gabriel, but more than that, she was inspired by Maya's example of selfless kindness. Elena started volunteering at the hospital during Maya's visits, helping other young mothers who found themselves in difficult situations. She discovered that her own experiences, while painful, gave her unique insight into helping others facing similar challenges. The hospital social workers were impressed by Elena's natural ability to connect with and support other young people in crisis. Maya's parents, who had initially been concerned about their daughter's involvement in such a complex situation, began to see the positive impact it was having on their family. Maya had become more confident, compassionate, and mature. She was excelling in school and had started a peer support group for students dealing with family challenges. The most surprising development came when Rosa, Maya's grandmother, offered to mentor Elena. Rosa had raised 7 children of her own and had years of experience helping young mothers in their community. She saw potential in Elena and wanted to help her build a stable, independent life. Under Rosa's guidance, Elena enrolled in classes to complete her high school education. She moved into a transitional housing program for young mothers and began working part-time at a local daycare center. Elena's transformation was remarkable, but she credited Maya's initial act of kindness as the catalyst for all the positive changes in her life. Gabriel continued to thrive under the care of the hospital staff, but his special bond with Maya remained strong. The adoption agency had found several potential families for him, but Elena had one more surprising request. She wanted Maya's family to be considered as Gabriel's adoptive family. This request created a whirlwind of emotions and discussions within Maya's family. While they had grown to love Gabriel, adopting a baby was a major life decision that required careful consideration of their financial situation, living space, and ability to provide long-term care. Mrs. Thompson worked with both families to explore all options, including open adoption arrangements that would allow Elena to maintain some contact with Gabriel while ensuring he had a stable, permanent home. The process was complex, but everyone involved was committed to making decisions based on what would be best for Gabriel's future. After weeks of family meetings, counseling sessions, and careful consideration, Maya's parents made their decision. While they had grown to love Gabriel deeply, they realized that their current situation wouldn't allow them to provide the level of care and resources a baby would need. Both parents were working long hours just to make ends meet, and Rosa was already helping to care for Maya and manage the household. Maya was initially disappointed by her parents' decision, but her grandmother Rosa helped her understand the complexity of the situation. Rosa explained that loving someone sometimes means making difficult choices that prioritize their well-being over our own desires. This was a hard lesson for Maya to accept, but it deepened her understanding of true compassion. Elena, meanwhile, had been making remarkable progress in her own life. She had completed her GED, was working full-time at the daycare center, and had moved into her own small apartment. More importantly, she had been attending counseling and parenting classes, preparing for the possibility of eventually being reunited with Gabriel. The surprising turn came when Elena made an announcement that shocked everyone. She had decided that she wasn't ready to be the mother Gabriel deserved, but she had found what she believed was the perfect solution. She had connected with a couple, the Johnsons, who had been trying to have children for years and had been approved for adoption. What made this arrangement special was Elena's request for an open adoption that would include Maya's continued involvement in Gabriel's life. The Johnsons, who had met Maya and witnessed her special bond with Gabriel, were touched by the story and eager to honor this unique relationship. Elena's decision was met with mixed emotions from Maya. While she was sad that Gabriel wouldn't be staying with her family, she was proud of Elena's courage in making such a selfless choice. Elena had grown from a scared, homeless teenager into a thoughtful young woman who was putting her child's needs above her own desires. The transition process was carefully planned to minimize trauma for Gabriel. Maya continued her visits, gradually introducing him to his new parents while maintaining their special bond. The Johnsons were patient and understanding, recognizing that Maya had played a crucial role in Gabriel's early development. During this transition period, something beautiful began to emerge. Maya, Elena, Rosa, and the Johnsons formed an extended support network around Gabriel. It wasn't a traditional family structure, but it was built on love, respect, and shared commitment to Gabriel's well-being. Elena's transformation continued to inspire everyone around her. She had enrolled in community college with plans to study social work, hoping to help other young people facing similar challenges. She credited Maya's initial act of kindness as the moment that changed her life's trajectory, showing her that compassion and courage could overcome even the most difficult circumstances. 6 months after that fateful morning when Maya found Gabriel, the adoption was finalized in a courtroom filled with everyone who had become part of Gabriel's extended family. Maya sat between her grandmother Rosa and Elena, watching as the judge officially declared the Johnsons as Gabriel's parents. It was an emotional moment that represented the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. The Johnsons honored their commitment to maintaining Gabriel's connection with Maya and Elena. They established regular visits and included both young women in important milestones and decisions regarding Gabriel's care. This arrangement created a unique but loving family structure that prioritized Gabriel's emotional well-being and honored the bonds he had formed. Maya had learned invaluable lessons about courage, compassion, and the complexity of family relationships. Her teachers noticed a new maturity in her approach to challenges, and she began mentoring younger students who were facing difficulties at home. She started a school program called Angels Among Us, which encouraged students to perform small acts of kindness in their community. Elena's journey from a homeless, Scared teenager to a confident young woman studying social work, became an inspiration to others in similar situations. She began speaking at schools and community centers about the importance of asking for help and the power of human kindness. Her story, intertwined with Maya's, showed that even in the darkest circumstances, hope and healing were possible. The most remarkable outcome was the ripple effect of kindness that spread throughout their community. Maya's initial act of compassion had inspired others to be more aware of people in need around them. The local hospital started a program for abandoned infants, and several families volunteered to provide emergency care for babies in similar situations. Rosa, Maya's grandmother, often reflected on how proud she was of her granddaughter's actions that morning. She had always tried to teach Maya about compassion and responsibility, but seeing her put those values into action in such a challenging situation confirmed that the lessons had taken root. As Gabriel grew, he thrived in his loving home with the Johnsons while maintaining special relationships with Maya and Elena. On his first birthday, all the families gathered to celebrate, creating new traditions that honored their unique bond. Maya read him the same stories she had read during those early hospital visits, and Elena shared photos documenting his growth and development. The story that began with a frightened teenager making an impossible choice and a 12-year-old girl choosing compassion had evolved into something beautiful and lasting. Maya understood now that being a hero didn't require extraordinary abilities or dramatic gestures. Sometimes it simply meant opening your heart when someone needs help and being willing to see a situation through to its conclusion. Years later, Maya would often tell people that finding Gabriel didn't just save his life, it changed hers forever. It taught her that families come in many forms, that courage can be found in the most unexpected people, and that one act of kindness has the power to transform multiple lives in ways we might never fully understand.